Thank you to Xano for sponsoring this video and making it happen. In this video, you are going to learn from start to finish a tech stack that allows you to build full stack apps using Xano as the backend for the database, for the logic, so the API calls, and most importantly, using AI agents inside of Xano. This is what's going to give the apps that you build a ton of power. You're going to learn how to use Cursor to actually build the backend and the logic, and how to explore the Xano dashboard to see exactly what's happening inside of your app. And you can actually visually see all of the logic that's happening. This is something that really sets Xano apart compared to tools like just using Cursor. So if you just use Cursor, you don't see visually what's happening, especially as your app gets really complicated. It's easy to get overwhelmed and not actually understand what your app is doing. And then finally, we're going to build a front end in Lovable that's going to allow us to actually interact with our app and our AI agent. Click the link in the description to go to Xano and follow along with me. And you're going to want to stick around till the end, because if you learn this technique and tech stack of how to use Xano as the backend, it's going to unlock a whole new way of building full stack apps that's going to keep you on the cutting edge of AI app development. Let's jump in. First thing we're going to do is create a new workspace. I'm going to click that button. And then to set up the workspace, I'm going to say we want to build an app. So I'm going to say create a customer facing web/mobile app. And then in terms of setting up the workspace, now we could create with AI. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to start from scratch just to show you around Xano, but you can create with AI if you want, especially once you're used to using Xano a little bit more. So for the workspace name, I'm going to call it AI Agent Chat. And you can name this anything you want. This is just the name inside of Xano. And then what tool or front end will Xano be connected to? I'm going to say AI assisted development. We're going to use Cursor in this video. And then I'm just going to go ahead and select Cursor. And then we're going to create the workspace. Now, I think this is just really for Xano's own knowledge, but it's not going to really affect how Xano works. So if you did want to use a different tool, you could definitely do that as well. So I'm going to jump into Cursor in just a second. I do want to call out that you can go into Xano and actually, create things directly in Xano. So you could create database tables, create APIs. But in this video, we're going to connect to Cursor. So that way we're going to have Cursor's agents essentially talk to Xano, and using XanoScript, build this all out for us. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So here I am inside of Cursor, and I just opened Cursor in a brand new folder, an empty folder. So I opened into an empty folder called Xano AI Agent. And this is where we're going to be building out our actual code and our front end and then communicating with Xano in the back end. So there's something that you need to do to actually set up Cursor so that it is going to talk to Xano. So if you go here to the top left, I already have the XanoScript extension added to Cursor, and I can even pin it, which is nice. So it'll always be there. Or actually, I think I unpinned it by accident. So it was already pinned. But if you don't have the XanoScript plugin already, what you can do is go to extensions, search for XanoScript, and go ahead and click that, and then just install it. So it's really simple. Just install the XanoScript plugin. And then up here on the top, you'll be able to click that button and you'll be able to see XanoScript. And then what you're going to have to do is you already would have had a Xano account because we already did that in the beginning of the video, but you could create an account or get started. So I'm going to click get started. And then up here at the top, it's just going to ask us to log in with Xano, which is going to authenticate Xano with our web browser. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. It's going to open a web page. And because I'm already logged into Xano, it should all happen really easily. And here it says successfully authenticated. Your ID will open automatically. So I'm going to go ahead and click open Cursor. So now we can see we are in our Xano account, and the name Seth, my account, is showing. So if I click that, now it's going to let us select which workspace we want to be working in. So we can see we have a few that I've created in the past. There's a previous Xano video. If you want to learn even more about Xano, check out our previous video where we do a Xano build, a full stack web app. But in this video, we're going to use the AI agent chat workspace because that's the one that we just created. So now at the top here, you just need to click that XanoScript button, which is going to pull up this page. So there's a few things we can do. First, I'm going to click Setup Agent Instructions, which are going to add the agent instructions to our actual workspace. So this is going to basically tell Cursor how to work with Xano. And now if we go to our files here on the left side, you can see these files are now inside of that folder on our computer. And these are all the files that are going to tell the cursor agent, how to actually work with Xano. And you're going to see how seamless it is in just a few minutes. So now we're just going to go back to Xano real quick, the XanoScript plugin. And I'm going to click Pull Changes, which is going to pull changes from our remote Xano workspace. So what that's doing here, down here on the bottom left, you can see it's pulling changes from Xano. This is going to pull in the starter template that we had set up for us in Xano. So if I go back to our files here, we can see it's pulled in everything. So just as an example, just to double check, you can see under APIs, authentication, it's pulled in these authentication APIs. And this is important so that the Cursor AI agent knows everything that we have inside of Xano. And just to show you here, in Xano, we have API, we have the authentication API, and these are the 9 endpoints that are inside of Xano. So just to show you how it's all matching up here inside of Cursor and inside of Xano as well. So now we get to do the fun part of actually building our apps. So I created a prompt that's telling us that we want to essentially build an app that allows us to talk to an AI agent in a chat interface. We're going to start in plan mode. This is helpful, especially when you're first starting out. And let's use Opus 4.5 because that is, in my opinion, the best model right now. And now there's a few questions that it's asking. So it says the existing API requires user authentication for this MVP. How would you like to handle authentication? Full auth, include login sign-up pages, must log into chat. So I'm going to say A, full auth, that's what we want. We're going to continue. And sometimes Cursor, especially in planning mode, likes to ask you questions just to make sure that it knows which direction it wants to go in. So it says now I have everything I need to create the plan. So now it's creating a plan, and then we're going to review that plan and then execute on it and have the AI start building. So we can click on it and see the whole plan. It creates basically an overview, the backend that it wants to actually generate, the architecture, the front end structure, and the chat interface and implementation steps. So one thing that I actually do want to change about the plan is I'm going to say right now, we just want to focus on the backend in Xano. We don't want to build the front end right now. So I'm going to say right now, just focus on the backend and logic in Xano, not the front end. So this is where it's important to actually go in and see what the plan is and make modifications as necessary before we actually start building. And that's also what's really helpful about the plan feature. Because if we didn't do that, then it would have just started coding right away and it would have included the front end. So it says, what additional backend functionality do you need beyond the existing chat endpoint? List conversations, get messages, delete conversations, create a new AI agent with custom behavior. So I think A, B, and C, but I'm not going to have them create a new AI agent right now. So we'll just do kind of the basics for this backend. Okay, so now it's going to update the backend plan and allow us to actually do it. So I'm asking one more clarifying question. Are you going to create an AI agent in Xano that uses tools? So basically, I wanted to go and use the Xano AI agent feature. So create an agent that uses tools to do this. Now, of course, you could just do it with API calls, but I want to show you the power of the agent inside of Xano so you can start to get ideas of how you can use this for your own app. Okay. So it says, good question. There's already an existing agent that has one tool, which is the search doc. So that was by default, it kind of creates this agent with the search documentation. But what we want to do is create a general agent, a helpful ChatGPT-like assistant with no tools needed, custom agent with tools. Yeah, I'm just going to type general assistant with no tools needed to start. We can add later, but I want to use the agent feature of Xano. So we can always add tools later, but I do want to make sure we're actually building that out correctly in the way that we want to actually utilize this agent feature. So now I'm approving the plan and I approved it. So now it is actually building the plan. So what we can see is it is building out it's writing XanoScript, which is code that Xano can understand. And once we have it, what I can do is actually go and we're going to push the code to Xano. So if we go here to our Xano plugin, there's going to be changes that you can see here are already coming in. What we're going to do is push those changes to Xano so it can put once they're ready and once this is done coding. And then we're going to go into the Xano interface and dashboard and start testing it out and making sure that everything is working correctly. So here we can just quickly review what Cursor has implemented. So it created a chat assistant, a general purpose conversational AI, which basically doesn't have tools now, but we could add it later. It created an API group to organize the chat related endpoints, so sending end conversations, etc. So the key features are implemented: user authentication, authorization, conversation history, and pagination. So basically what this means is only users who are logged in are going to be able to see their own chats that are associated with their own account. And then to deploy these changes to your Xano backend, you'll need to use the push all changes to Xano tool. So all we have to do is go here, as I mentioned, make sure you click on that Xano icon up here. And then we can say push stage changes to Xano. So I'm going to click that and I'm going to say stage all changes. So now we can see it's pushing the changes. Looks like there might be an error creating on Xano, syntax error. So I'll go ahead and send that off and hopefully Cursor is able to resolve this and see what actually is happening. So it says it knows the issue. So we're going to let it make those changes and hopefully that resolves it. All right. So it says that it fixed it. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is here in the Xano plugin, what we're going to do is push changes to Xano. And now at the bottom, it looks like we're not getting errors, hopefully. And it seems like it went this time. All right. So here we are back in Xano. And I can see if I go to the AI agents tab, now we have our chat assistant, which was created. So if I click on it, we can see that it's already set up and we can make changes easily here in the settings, but it's set it up. And this is really cool because it was all done from Cursor, the agent. It used the documentation. And this is what's like so powerful about AI and documentation and context. If AI knows what it needs to do and understands the context and the rules of things, it's able to work here with Xano and it's able to do a lot. So we could go in and like change the description if we want. The model host right now, we're just going to use Xano's test model for free Gemini credits, but you could easily change this to Anthropic, Gemini, or OpenAI. So what's so cool about this inside of Xano is that you can choose the model that your AI agent is going to be running on. And you could just add an API key. And as it says here in production, you would need to switch and not use, but this is basically just for free. You can use a limited amount of tokens. So it's good for testing, not for production. You can just define how many steps it's going to use. There's a system prompt that you can change if you would like, the prompt message, and then the agent output. You can customize a lot of this inside of this editor. This is what makes Xano so powerful, is that it is basically a visual editor. So like it's a no code editor here with the power of using code and using Cursor to write all the code, but you can visually see what's happening. And that's going to apply here in the APIs as well, which is something that I think is one of the most powerful things about Xano. So I'm going to explore it right now and show you exactly what I mean. So if we go into chat, so this is the new chat API that was just created for us. And this is what I mean. You can visually go in and actually see exactly what's happening. You can go to Canvas and see, okay, there's an input, query conversation by authenticated user, and then you get a response. Under stack, you can see, okay, input, function stack, response. And then you can see the code in XanoScript if you want to see that as well. And then we can even test it. So under the stack, we can go and hit run. So all we have to do is first add a user to this test. If you don't have a user yet, just go back to the database and then go into your user table and you can manually add a user. That's one easy way to add a user. So here I just added a user, which is going to bring in their auth token. So then we can go ahead and send these test values and click run at the bottom. So it automatically created a new conversation. That's why it says conversation ID 4. And we got a response from the AI agent. If you go into the canvas, we can see this is exactly what happened throughout the process. So you can go in and view the whole flow, which is what makes Xano so powerful as a visual AI developer so you can see what the code is actually doing every step of the way. So it's really amazing that we can see this step by step. Otherwise, it's just going to be code. Like if you think about how typical AI development is you're just going to have code to look at and chatting with AI. Whereas here in Xano, we can actually go in and see the whole canvas step by step. We can see here it's calling the chat assistant agent, and that's where the magic is happening with the AI functionality that we created. So we go to AI, we go to agents, we can see this is the agent that we created. And there's so much more that you can do with these agents. You can add tools, you can add a lot more capabilities. So this is just a basic example of what's possible. So the next step is actually building our front end. So for this video, like we did in our last video, again, if you want to learn even more about how to build full stack web apps using Xano, check that out. But we're going to use Lovable. Now you could connect a front end built with any AI tool to Xano, but we're just going to use Lovable because I think it's a really easy way to get started and show you quickly and get that aha moment of how it all connects together. So the initial prompt is let's build a front end for an AI chat app. You will use the backend through Xano. And then there's a really important step that we need to take care. So you need to get a couple specific URLs so that we can tell Lovable where our backend is. So here we go to API. We're going to need to get the authentication and the chat APIs. So I'm going to click on the Swagger documentation, click on Swagger documentation link. I'm going to click on Swagger docs. And then this is the URL that we want. So here, this is just all the documentation basically that was created for the API. I'm going to copy link address. If you click on it, you can see it's just essentially information about these APIs. And then I'm going to go back to Lovable and I'm going to paste in the first one. And then I need to get the next one as well. So we're going to go back to chat. Same thing, Swagger documentations, right click, copy link address, and then paste that in as well. And then I can go ahead and send that prompt off, and Lovable is going to know what to do with this backend information that we have. Because I'm saying we will use the backend through Xano, it's going to know what to do. So it says I'm going to build a beautiful AI chat front end. Let me first fetch the Xano API specs to understand the backend structure. So as we can see here, it's fetching the backend that we gave it, which is great. It understands the API structure. So it's going to build out the first version with login, sign up, authentication. That's exactly what we want. And I'm going to show you how it works and actually go through, and you're going to see that it's going to be a working app. Hopefully, if there's any bugs, we can always debug and go through that process with a design system as well. So it's coding it. It's basically building it all out, and we're going to be back in just a minute. All right. So we have our first version that was created. So this is our landing page. It's just created a simple login, but this is a huge test. So we need to see if we can actually log in, and we're going to check in Xano if the user shows up in Xano. This is a huge test right here. So I'm going to click sign up and let's test this out. So Kramer, let's do, because I already put my email in here, I'll say like Lovable, set plus Lovable at nocode.nba. If you didn't know, you can always add plus to any like Gmail email address, and it'll basically create an alias for you. And create a password, and let's create the account. Again, this was all generated by Lovable. Pretty cool drop shadow or hover effect here. Okay, weak password, use at least one number. All right, true, I did a weak password. Okay, so I'm logged in. Here on the bottom, I can see my information, and let's check in Xano just as the final test and moment of truth to see if it shows up inside of Xano. So we're gonna go to our database, we're gonna click on users, and there we go, we can see that user we just created, Seth plus Lovable at nocode.nba. And the role as a member is there as well, because this was actually created through the API. That's really cool. So just before we even test the actual app and the AI chat, we can see that we created an app with user authentication, and it was all handled through Xano on the back end and Lovable in the front end. And of course, you could use other front ends as well. Lovable, again, is just an easy one to get started. So the second moment of truth is sending an actual message, seeing if it creates conversations and actually is able to have real chats. So let's send off a message. Amazing. All right. And the design is really nice. If it loading indicators here, we can see new conversation. The only thing that's weird is the date, but that's just a Lovable thing. I don't know why it's saying that. So hi there, how can I help you today? And let's say, help me come up with a marketing plan for a pizza restaurant. So it's thinking, seems to be working because it's taking longer. So we saw what was happening in the backend with the chat API call and how it was calling the agent to actually use AI to give us a response. Okay, so if you followed the tutorial to this point, you have created a backend in Xano with user authentication, logic, and an AI agent. We've created a front end in Lovable that's connected to our Xano backend that is able to have a chat that is connecting and calling our AI agent. And at this point, you have all the fundamental knowledge to build so many different types of applications. So just one example, you could turn this into a custom agent where the AI is as a tool call that can call your HubSpot CRM, for example, and then it can be personalized to whatever use case you have. There are so many different use cases that you could create with this framework and tech stack of Xano in the backend and using the AI agent within Xano to add that AI functionality. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel to get even more free content like this. Thank you so much to Xano for sponsoring this video and making it happen. Click the link in the description to go to Xano and try it out for yourself, and leave a comment below to let me know what you think of this tech stack and if it's something that you could see yourself using. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.